I've been fortunate enough to see a lot of comedy acts and pay a lot of money for a lot of comedy acts, but none are as funny as you. And you're the one that's talking to me on the phone, so that just tickles me to no end. $400 a week. I wish I was making that for doing this article, but but
you got to understand though.
What's that?
If you're making $400 a week, but your expenses are $250.
Well, that's true. That's true. And
it takes a few tanks of gas.
Absolutely. And then this
a round trip to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I couldn't afford a hotel, so I was sleeping in a rest area overnight on the way there and on the way back. And you got to eat, even if you don't eat very well. You got to eat. So by the time the travel expense, and by the time you eat a little bit for 6, 7 days, 8 days, you're not really making $400 a week.
Exactly.
You're making $150.
Exactly. Well, I would take that. I get a whole $12 every week, but I do it because I love to do it. And I get to talk to people like you, so not every job would afford me that opportunity. So I do it, and I do it with pride. But I can just imagine in those early days when, as you said, there were only so many comedy clubs in the country and none in the South until the comedy club in Atlanta opened. Was there any...
Jack, not just in the South. Prior to 1982, the only place in the United States that you could see live stand-up comedians was in Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, New York City, Boston, and Cleveland. There were absolutely no comedy clubs anywhere in the heartland or the Southeast.
And so...
And then once that one opened, and others started to get out, it was a mushroom effect.
Right.
Within just a few years, there was 400 full-time comedy clubs in the United States.
And that kind of erupted, what was that, the late 80s into the 90s maybe?
Yeah, early, mid-80s, late 80s,
In those comedians that you met, were there any particular ones that helped you along the way or mentored you, or did you just kind of...
I'm not necessarily saying that they helped me or they were mentors, but I had the pleasure of being around some people, just observing their behavior, observing their attitude.
Sure.
I had the opportunity to just spend the whole week with Jay Leno before he became as famous as he is now.
Right.
He was already making appearances on the David Letterman show, and he would come to Atlanta, and I was the opening act, and we would go out for dinner late at night and just talk.
There's another Italian.
Do what?
There's another Italian.
That's right.
Something about those Italians.
So a lot of interesting people. So I got to meet a lot of people like that, and
so Jay Leno was a nice guy.
Yeah, and I met Tim Allen when Tim was just making $600 a week.
Wow. That's
You're the home improvement guy.
Oh yeah, I know Tim. And we just lost Louis Anderson this year. Did you know Louis?
I did not know him, but I was a big fan of Louis Anderson. He was a classic.
Yeah, well, that was my wife's favorite, and I think she said the next time you talk to James, ask him if he knew Louis, because she was a big Louis fan.
And I've enjoyed being as a comedian the opportunity to perform with some of the country music artists.
Right.
I got to do a show with Tanya Wynette in Denver, Colorado, many years ago. And I had the opportunity to work with people like Rita McEntire and Dolly Parton. And I hung around with Kenny Rogers a few times. And got to be good friends with George Jones, and I did one show with him, and it's been a great experience.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I used to ask you, would you write a book? And you said if I wrote a book, it wouldn't be funny. I would write about the experiences and the people I've met, and it sounds like that'd be a great book.
Yeah, I keep saying that one of these days I'm going to do it, but I better get with it.
Well, if you need somebody to help you with it, to put it down on paper, don't forget me.
Okay.
I hope you like the material that I put out for you.
Yes, yeah.
So you are able to read it then. They do show it to you.
Right.
That's good. You know, it was interesting to hear that you said Jay Leno was a nice guy, because I've always, you hear different of opinion about that he was a nice guy, he was, or he isn't. So it's interesting to hear you say that he was. So that's good.
Yeah. And one time when I was in Oklahoma, and I was still the open act, you remember the comedian Stephen Wright?
No, I don't think so.
Well, just a big star, especially back in the 80s.
Oh, okay.
Johnny Carson loved it, and I always did a whole week with Stephen Wright, and Jay Leno was in town because he had a show that night at a theater, and when his show was over with, he came to the comedy club to see Stephen Wright. So me and Jay Leno and Stephen Wright went out to eat. Okay, it was Pete Mesquite Steakhouse.
Oh, wow.
And I spent the whole evening with Jay Leno in Oklahoma with Stephen Wright. That was a great experience.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
It's been my experience that most of those people are real nice guys, and I don't have any awful experiences that I can share with you. There's a tiny, tiny percentage of the human race that are not real nice.
Right.
It has nothing to do with show business. I'm sure that there's a small percentage of plumbers, electricians, and construction workers and truck drivers who are not the nicest guys in the world.
Right. And, for a comedian in those days, and particularly the comedians you're talking about, when they made it, they always said they knew when they made it, when they were on Johnny Carson, and Johnny Carson called them over to their couch. Was there a moment for you in your career that was maybe in your mind equivalent to that you thought, oh, I've arrived now?
No, I don't think it has been. No. No one particular moment.
Yeah.
No, I don't think I had that moment.
I'm sure that just being in the presence of all those people that you're talking about was.
I think just persistence and longevity.
Right, and it really says something. The fact that you've been able to keep doing it 35, 40 years, because with COVID and everything, those of us who depend on live entertainment for a lot of things, we're very concerned about the future of live entertainment, comedy and music.
Well, they shut down most of the venues. In my case, in about 6 or 7 months, they shut down everywhere. And then when they reopened at half capacity, and then eventually got back to full capacity. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those things that we had to go through.
Right. But it looks like we're finally starting to come out on the other side, and I'm very glad of that. But now your career keeps you out on, and now we talked last time, because I said, who do you have to pass on your funny legacy to? Because you got to pass it on to somebody, and you never married or had children, but you've got many nieces and nephews that you can pass that on to. But I would imagine that you being on the road, 300 days a year, would influence your decision to not be married, because I think that a lot of people who choose, once they have a family and they choose their career over their families, they neglect their families a lot. And I admire, ones who make the choice to do either or.
That's not the reason I've never been married. And I used to work 300 days a year, but I don't do that anymore, of course. Basically now I work usually on the weekends.
Okay.
But here's the thing, okay? See, I had 2 uncles and 2 cousins that drove 18-wheelers. They were truck drivers.
Right.
Okay? And they would hit the road. They'd be gone 4, 5, 6 days. They'd come back home for a day or two, hit the road again, come back, So they have the same type schedule that an entertainer has, and probably even more so. And my Uncle Charlie and his wife raised 7 kids,
Oh, my.
So I know there's a lot of comedians or show business people who act like because they're on the road, they could do this, they could do that, Well, there's approximately 2 million Americans who travel as part of their job, including truck drivers, not just comedians. So,
so if they really want to do it, they can do it.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh,
yeah.
Well.
I've said this to a friend of mine one time. If you're on the interstate and you're headed somewhere, and I always travel by car.
Right.
So I'm in 3 lanes one way, 3 lanes the other. A lot of that traffic are 18-wheelers. We see those trucks on the road everywhere. And if you look at the license plate, if I'm in North Carolina,
right,
you see all those license plates. It's New Jersey,
sure,
Mississippi, Indiana, Florida. Okay?
Right.
And they're on the road. It's the weekend. You can't assume that all those guys must be single and not married, or they would not be on the road. See, that would be ridiculous.
Right.
So when you hear a comedian, and I hear them talk this way all the time,
sure,
and they will talk about that, about they miss this or they miss that, they miss this because they traveled. I think that's an excuse more than anything else.
I would say you're probably right, and that's very well said. So on that note, you always, as I said in my interview before, you always give us a lesson as well. You encourage us as well as make us laugh. What would be a lesson that you would want people to take from you? What is a lesson what's a lesson we could remember you by?
Well,
a life lesson, rather.
Answer that question one more time.
You always give a lesson and encouragement to your audience, or you always make your audience think more about what or at least you do me, about how we should live our lives or better live our lives. What is a lesson that you would impart to me that I?
Well, I could just say something that it helps me and applies to my life. You'll hear people sometimes talking about, I'm hoping for a miracle, I'm wishing for a miracle. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And here's what I've also said. I don't say this on stage, but I have discussed this with people I know. If you're looking for a miracle, hoping for a miracle, or wishing for a miracle, look in the mirror. That is a miracle. You are still alive. You are breathing. Your heart is still beating. God gave you another day. That is a miracle.
Well said. I can't top that one. But I do have, if I may do this, if you will indulge me for just one moment, I would like my daughter, Bella, she's 8 years old. She'll be at your show on February 3rd. She wants to say hello to you and ask you one very important question.
Okay.
So this is Bella, James.
Hello.
Well, hello, young lady. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm real good. You know, I have a niece who is my niece's daughter, who's 8 years old, and her name is Casey.
Oh, that's a pretty name.
And anyway, Bella will be at your show, and she's a very big fan, and she wants to ask you this one question.
Okay.
Are you doing a meet and greet?
No, I don't. Zach, they can find a way for you to meet me.
Okay.
Backstage before the show.
Okay.
Because of what's going on in COVID-19, and I have all this apprentices and conditions, so I don't hang out with a crowd.
Oh, you can't do the fan meetings at the end.
Right.
I see.
But young lady, if you get somebody backstage, we'll talk.
Okay. I will email the director of the Lincoln Theater, and I'll copy it to Lenny and your people, because they've been so great, and they're the ones who got us tickets. So your people are really wonderful. And
yes, Lenny and I have been together for about 26 years.
Well, they are good people, and
they do a good job, you know. And his philosophy is mine. My objective is, you know, I don't want to tarnish the badge.
Right.
So.
Yeah. The people have given it to you, and you don't take that lightly.
Right.
Right. Well, you have very, very, very good people. They've been very kind to me. They're always very complimentary of the work that I do, and the fact that I am about as little known as a writer as you can get, but they treat me like they value my work, and they allow me to talk to somebody like you. It truly is a thrill and an honor, and it's a blessing to talk to you.
And I appreciate you, sir. I look forward to seeing you real soon.
Yes, sir. And thank you so much for doing this again. I will tell you one thing before we go, that we have a new theater in my hometown called the Millwall, and it's an old movie house that was built in 1928 that they've just renovated. So I'm hoping I will put in a bug in people's ear and say, he comes to Marion once a year. We need to get him to Whitfield too, talk to
Lenny. We can make that happen.
Yeah, I would love to do that, because I think that you would be wonderful for our town, and I know that you would sell out as easy here as you do in Marion. So, and we'd love for you to do an annual visit with us. So, again, thank you so much. I hope that you have enjoyed this a fraction as much as I have. And as I said, it's a blessing and an honor to talk with you.
And likewise, my friend.
Well, I look forward to the show. And like I said, if you decide to write that book, you keep me in mind now.
Okay, I will. Okay.
All righty. Well, blessings to you for good health, and looking forward to the show, and we'll try to catch you at other shows when you come around. So
I look forward to seeing you, and I appreciate your time.
Yep, keep doing what you're doing, and we'll keep coming to see you for sure.
All right.
All right, take care.
Will do.
Bye-bye.